Today we are taking a look at Rowan Atkinson, who is best known as Mr. Bean.
Mr. Bean.
Mr. Bean, yes.
Okay. I think this guy's going to introduce him.
Yes.
3, 2, 1, go.
He was trained as an electrical engineer, decided on a showbiz career while at Queen's College, Oxford. He paved the way for a new British television comedy, not the 9 o'clock news, Blackadder, Mr. Bean. He's received numerous international prizes for his outstanding works, and he is known to be extremely selective about public appearances, and talk shows tops his list of things to avoid. Please welcome the man behind the mask, Rowan Atkinson. This time, you take this off.
Yes. The clap very in sync.
Yes.
Rowan, I start with the most horrifying things to do. I start with a quote that I read from you. It says, "The problem with talk shows is that you're supposed to amuse. I generally rely on being interesting rather than funny. They, that is us here, are not actually very interested in people who are very interesting. They just want people with wacky stories about airports, and I haven't really got any."
How true.
It's true.
How true. I haven't.
So how was Kastrup Airport?
No, I have no stories.
No. But how do you explain the man in the mask, the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde?
Well, I don't know really. I suppose it's just a job, you know, that's all. It's just I suppose that I'm just an actor, probably, at heart, rather than a comedian. I'm always rather confused, as I think I know you are, about whether I'm a comedian or whether I'm an actor.
No.
You know, or whether
No,
I'm an
not
actor.
confused
Are you
at
not
all,
confused
no.
at all? Oh, well, I'll stop talking.
I know you're boring now, and I know you will
exactly.
consider...
Exactly. You'll be nodding off in no time. I do draw a pretty sharp line between the two, which is why interviews like this are generally quite rare things, because I think generally that people want you to be funny, so I try not to be unfunny, but I try to make up for my lack of funniness within myself by hopefully trying to be, you know, vaguely intelligent and interesting about it. I can be funny, I think, as myself, when I'm with very good friends in small rooms, and I'm very relaxed.
Well,
But as soon as I'm in a big
it's just the
studio,
two of us here, so...
and all those minions, all those people out there.
No, but it strikes me that Richard Curtis says that you find almost nothing funny.
Yeah. I'm not a good... Yes, I almost laughed, didn't I? But not quite. No, I find it difficult to laugh at other things. Very few people and very few situations make me laugh. I sometimes feel some of it is in the back of me where I'm analysing the humour or I'm analysing the joke rather than enjoying it. So somebody tells a very good joke and I go, very funny.
And they stop telling jokes.
And they stop telling jokes, but I'm thinking about, yes, I suppose it is funny. You know what I mean? I'm kind of, it's sort of clocking, it's sort of slowly filtering its way down through the system.
TI.
And,
All right, let's
and
stop
sometimes I laugh
there,
a long
because
time
this
afterwards
is a
when
lot of interesting things so far. Okay, so at the very beginning, he says that even though he's known for being the funny guy, right, Mr. Bean. I mean, at this interview, this was 1993, so he's a younger man here. He wants to be known for what? His intellect. That's what he wants to display to the world, not his humor. He wants to be seen as the smart person, the intelligent man. But he thinks that that's not very interesting to other people. They just want to see the funny person. And that's kind of a clue to me right away. That he wants to be known for his intelligence. It's kind of suggest a high-level thinking person right there.
Yeah, and the sort of filtration thing, that's
Yes.
completely TI.
Yes.
But it's funny how he describes that, though. It's like, what interests him is the sort of like intelligence in the joke itself. Why does the joke work? you know.
Yeah, and I know this
amusing.
type very well, and so I think this is the world of dominant TI because you're constantly in analysis of everything. So it's kind of like they're so far ahead of the rest of us in a way that they already understand what emotion something's supposed to produce, and they've already gone there. They understand that, so they immediately shift into analysis. So for him, he hears a joke. He doesn't feel the need to laugh because immediately he knows it's supposed to be funny, right? So then automatically he's analyzing it. Is this funny? Why is this funny? How did this person construct this? And then immediately he's he's doing the TIs. He's quiet. He's not responding. I just find this is how they are in a lot of things, like they listen to a piece of music. They're not going to give you the typical response, like emotional response. I think immediately they shift into analyzing it. Like, what makes this music interesting? I'm sure they do this for
It's all
artwork and
building blocks, isn't it?
yes, exactly.
Deconstructing it.
Yes.
So they
As
can
opposed
use the
to
raw
a
materials.
Right, as opposed to a TE person who might begin speaking about it right away. This type does not. This type immediately starts the inner process, Like, they're not going to start speaking about it. They're going to probably start the analyzation. All right.
Okay, let's continue. 3, 2, 1, go.
And I suddenly realised how well structured the joke was and how beautifully told it was. And then I can laugh at it.
And then people look at you if you were some...
Yes, many hours later, as if I'm a madman. Generally I enjoy the performance more than the joke. I usually enjoy the performer and his attitude. It's the attitude with which humour is told.
Here we go.
I
This is
enjoy
Effie.
so much. In other words, generally the things that make me laugh are characters. It's people who kind of present a sort of truth to you. I mean, even though it's mad or it's funny or it's wacky or it's rude or it's silly, but there's a sort of a truth there that you identify with, and you think, I know that situation. I've been there, or I've seen someone like that on the train, or I am someone like that, and I prefer to keep it hidden.
Okay, let's stop
And yet
there.
here I am being.
Isn't that funny though? Like, he's essentially saying that he doesn't like, well, not that he doesn't like, but that he prefers humour that isn't intelligent. That's what he's saying. Like, he is interested in humour that's intelligent, analytically, but his preference is sort of like when the intelligence is taken out and it's just a sort of like raw sort of silly FE response. It's like childlike response to something more physical. And I mean, that's exactly what Mr. Bean is, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, let's go again. 1, 2, 3, go.
Characterized extremely well, and that does make me laugh.
So dramatic situations rather than jokes.
Yes, exactly.
How would you describe Mr. Bean? I wondered about the name. Bean, has been, vegetable. No.
Yeah. We started with zucchini. And
Mr. Zucchini.
Mr. Zucchini,
Yeah.
or Mr. Potato, or Mr. Cauliflower, or Mr. Cabbage, or Mr. And then we just sort of thought, Bean, seems it's short and it's silly, and we were it was either that or the name of a bird, Mr. Wren or Mr. Chaffinch, but. Birds and vegetables.
So chaffinch.
They say.
Birds and vegetables.
So we homed in on Bean. Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, there's a homage to Jacques Tati's Monsieur Hulot.
Yes, there was. I mean, and it's quite real. I don't think Mr. Bean is anything like Monsieur Hulot.
No.
I think he is quite different, but at the same time, there are similarities. And it's something about the comedy of not much happening. of nothing happening. The first Mr. Bean sketch that Richard Curtis and I ever wrote was, well, from what that falling asleep joke came from it, from the church sketch, which was in the very, very first Mr. Bean, when he can't stay awake in the church and the sermon is going on and he can't stay awake. And in theory, nothing's happening. I mean, when you explain the joke to people, we had this one line, man can't stay awake. That was the script.
And it takes 10 minutes.
And it takes 10 minutes.
Right.
And you read it and you think, well, it might be funny, but what's funny about it? And what's funny is the sort of truth of it, is the fact that you can see yourself there and you think, yes, actually, if I was slightly less self-conscious and slightly less aware of myself, if I had slightly less self-control, then I would be like Mr. Bean, and I too would be on my head on the floor with my feet in the air. And you can sort of, and you identify with it, but it's sort of the comedy of nothing happening. I mean, there aren't, fire engines or police cars or men rushing in the door or women with underwear around their ankles. It's all, it's very kind of uneventful. It's very ordinary, very basic sort of stuff, like the man making the sandwich. Mr. Bean making the sandwich in the park, but you sort of say, well, that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do, but he does it in a very eccentric way, and you think, no, that's not. And yet, if you were in that situation, you might do something similar, but you'd stop yourself. Well, I would.
Cheers.
Cheers. You could have.
But if we compare Monsieur Hulot and Mr. Bean,
Yeah.
there's a difference in psychology as well.
Yes, there is. Well, I mean, Mr. Bean is nastier. Mr.
Yeah, I
Bean
would
is
say
quite
so.
a nasty man.
Why?
He's quite... Well, because if he has any morals, if he has any values, then they're the morals of a 9-year-old boy. That's how I always see him. If anyone wants to ask a question about Mr. Bean, what would he do if this happened? What sort of car does he drive? What does he dream about?
All right, let's stop
I
it
would
there.
say, what does a 9-year-old boy
so
think about?
this is just... I mean, we'll just keep watching because, of course, he's very interesting.
Right. Yep.
It's so... I like how he just describes Mr. Bean. I mean, he's just like, well, if it's like a 9-year-old that doesn't have any morals or values, and I think it's really him, It's like if I, Rowan Atkinson, didn't have any values or morals, this is how I would be.
Yeah.
And I mean, his whole Mr. Bean is like, it's a classic INTP. Yeah, like, it's hard to explain, but it is true.
It's like a very sort of FE character, isn't it?
Yes.
Where like he's just obliviously like, oh, I want to make a sandwich in the park. Why
Yes.
not? Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny because I just think that they find these quirky, strange things hilarious. But I think, when they're younger, they don't realize that it's not appropriate, And there's a woman that we haven't typed, and I'm not going to say too much yet, but she's an INTP, and she made a comment one time about how in the airport she hit someone in the rear end with a broom or a mop as a joke, and the person got so mad at her, and she couldn't understand it. Like, she was like, oh, she just can't take a joke. Like, she was really genuinely perplexed about how someone would be upset because she hit a stranger in the butt with a mop. And that is just classic INTP, right? I mean, they think that's hilarious, and they don't understand why the rest of the world doesn't find it funny. And I think this is the brilliance of TI humor like this. He can take one simple thing and explore it all the way down, in every like nuance, how funny it is. There's a sketch he does where he's interviewing Elton John, and his basic idea is he's making fun of Elton John because he switched his names. His name should be John Elton because it makes more sense.
Right.
And he takes a simple concept like that, and the whole entire interview he works around this misnaming, and it's brilliant. Just one simple thing, how he explores every single nuance of it. And this shows me this dominant TI.
Yeah, he's an INTP.
Yes, no doubt. And it's funny now because you can see him. He's he's older now, and I think he's more comfortable. I think as it is with a lot of us, you know, as you get older, you start taking yourself less seriously. And I think for the INTP, in this interview, he wants to be known for his intellect, but now he's okay on talk shows, and he's okay, you know, being funny. He just doesn't take himself as seriously, and you can see it now. So, yeah, he's definitely an INTP, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a recent interview with him, maybe like 5 years ago, and he's even more open than he is here. A lot more.
Yeah, right, because he's not taking himself so seriously. That's what it
Right.
is. Yeah, he's okay being funny, and you know, he's kind of accepted it. It's like, okay, people want funny, I'll give them funny. You know, I think it just with the age comes wisdom in that way. So, all right.
Okay.
Please like and subscribe and share.
Recommend some people, and we can type them.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.